Next, on Currents News, Bishop DiMarzio speaks exclusively to Currents News, calling Governor Cuomo's new restrictions on Mass unfair since churches in Brooklyn and Queens are successfully taking all the necessary precautions.
Pastors and their parishioners are devastated by the new restrictions. I'm Jessica Easthope with the confusion surrounding the next steps and where this leaves Catholics now.
And our team coverage also includes how the new state restrictions will force more Catholic schools to close their doors and move to remote learning. Plus, tonight, the vice presidential candidates debate. The stakes are high as we explore how people's faith informs their vote. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Christine Persichetti. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio says the latest restrictions on Mass are outrageous. The bishop says the state's edict is being unfairly applied to Catholic churches, which have handled the pandemic responsibly. Our team coverage begins now with Currents News' Emily Druby and her exclusive interview with Bishop DiMarzio. Emily.
Christine, these new restrictions are some of the most severe the city has seen in months. They're going to seriously limit the amount of people that can be in some of the churches in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Now, Bishop DiMarzio exclusively tells us this is unfair. He also says officials did not give him a heads up about these major changes he found out along with the rest of the world, a move he called disrespectful.
We were not consulted. We did not know this was coming. We just heard on the news like everybody else did. I don't think we were respected or taken into the process. If we have a medical emergency in a particular place, well, we should be at least consulted or told what's happening.
The Bishop of Brooklyn strongly reacted to the lack of communication over new restrictions being imposed on houses of worship. They're part of an initiative to attack COVID hotspots across the state. The new restrictions are being broken into zones. This is an example of one in South Brooklyn. In the red zone, churches will be limited to 25% capacity, capped at 10 people. In the orange zone, they'll be limited to 33% capacity or 25 people max. And in the yellow zone, they'll be limited to 50% capacity. There's also two hotspots in Queens, one near Forest Hills and the other near Far Rockaway. The diocese is still trying to get an exact number on affected churches, but rough estimates say there's more than 15 in the red zones. Speaking on Wednesday, Mayor Bill de Blasio calling the new rules necessary.
We warned people well over a week ago that we were entering into a dangerous situation.
But Bishop DiMarzio says the new rules are unfair because churches in these areas have been following their safety restrictions and have not personally had a spike.
We show us the facts and we'll work on it. But within our communities, we don't see a spike. We believe that our rights now are being infringed.
The bishop said they don't have mass gatherings of people, which was another concern of the governor. Also adding many Diocese of Brooklyn churches are large and can safely fit more than 10 people. Joseph Esposito led the team that figured out how to open diocesan churches and schools safely. He said the churches in the red zone are being unfairly penalized by location.
I'll be honest with you, I'm disgusted. We've done so much work. We've been so successful. We followed all the rules, all the regulations.
The restrictions will last for at least 14 days, and the mayor wants them in effect by tomorrow. Now, we will keep you posted as soon as we find out exactly which churches will be impacted. On the Upper East Side, Emily Druby, Currents News. Back to you, Christine.
All right, Emily, thank you. The Diocese of Brooklyn has been taking every safety precaution since churches reopened to make sure worshipers stay safe. When parishes opened their doors, only 25% were allowed inside, and those who returned were under strict social distancing. Everyone must also wear a face mask. The liturgy also changed because of COVID. No entrance procession for any mass. Music must be limited to the organist and cantor the cantor cannot sing at the same place where the lector reads. All reading materials, such as missals or worship aids, were removed from the pews. The handshake during the sign of peace, strictly forbidden. And the Diocese of Brooklyn, after no longer offering the precious blood, strongly recommended that parishioners receive communion by hand only. Churches that have been consistently following those guidelines are now outraged. Pastors frustrated that their pews will once again start to empty out. People of faith upset that after months of waiting to return to Mass, they will be denied their spiritual home again. Currents News' Jessica Easthope has more.
Nick DeMola does the same thing every day. Come 8:30 in the morning, you know where to find him. In the front left pew at Our Lady of Grace.
If they lock the doors, I'll stay and pray outside, I guess. All my life, I've been going to church every day. We need them more than ever right now.
Just as Catholics like Nick are getting back to church, the threat of closing is once again looming over the Brooklyn diocese. Parishioners say the way they practice their faith feels like it's under attack.
I feel like it's a persecution. It's a sacrament. You can't watch it on TV. You need to receive it.
We can't be preventing people from practicing their faith in the United States of America. It's horrible.
Church communities are desperate for answers, and pastors are not much more in the know.
Do everything we ask you to do, and still, even after that, you can't worship in your church.
Father Vincent Chiricella, the pastor of Our Lady of Grace, says state and city leaders are sending mixed messages.
If social distancing, if wearing masks, and if hand sanitizing is supposed to keep us safe, and we're doing it, why are we limiting it to 10 people?
The confusion surrounding the changes swirled throughout the diocese Wednesday.
10 maximum or 25%, which didn't make any sense to me. So that's a very confusing thing for us.
Father David Detmer, the pastor of St. Edmunds in Sheepshead Bay, says he's frustrated knowing his church will once again see attendance go down.
It's the number of families that are gradually coming back.
And it's more than just wanting parishioners to come worship. For some churches, their futures depend on it.
It'll affect the collection, and that will affect the parish.
As red zone parishes wait for further instruction, Catholics are again forced to imagine life without church and wondering what more could have been done. In Gravesend, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Those lockdown measures aren't limited to the Diocese of Brooklyn's churches. They also include Catholic schools. Yesterday, 6 schools in the red zone had to close, and as of today, it seems 4 additional schools in the orange zone may have to begin remote learning. We are still waiting for more details from City Hall. For many, the transition home is being called seamless, but unwanted and unfair.
We begin our day as we always do with prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, and so I'd ask everybody to join me this morning.
That's John O'Brien from Good Shepherd Catholic Academy in Marine Park, a red zone. Parents held a rally there yesterday demanding the governor open up the school. There's only been 1 case throughout the Diocese of Brooklyn schools, and they have procedures in place if a positive case is suspected or detected. Catholic schools in the yellow zone can continue in-person learning, but must undergo mandatory COVID testing. The mayor announcing that new measure this morning with few details.
We're getting information constantly from the state, updating it. We'll get it out to the people. We're going to create an online tool to let people know by typing in their address exactly what zone they're in. We'll announce when that is up.
So far, no word on that cluster map resource the mayor mentioned. More than 30 Catholic schools are in the yellow zone. And joining us now on the phone to talk more about these restrictions on Catholic schools in the diocese is the Vicar for Catholic Schools, Monsignor David Casado. And Monsignor, we were just talking the other day about how great everything's going in the schools, that enrollment is up because public school students are making the switch. Now this, what was your reaction hearing that some schools had to close?
I was extremely disappointed when I heard that, first. Secondly, we've been totally disrespected. I said, and I'll say it again and again, come and see. Mayor DiMarzio, Governor Cuomo, come to my school and see how wonderful things are, how clean, how good it is, and how wonderful the children are reacting. There hasn't been one single problem here. And all I'm saying is, look and see what we're doing here in Brooklyn and see these schools that are open and thriving.
Yeah. Do you feel like the Catholic schools are being punished for someone else's wrongdoing?
Well, I think the whole point is we're doing it right. And we've done it right from the beginning of June when school was just closing. We took up the whole initiative of getting our schools open. We have our schools open and doing well. Principals, teachers, board chairmen all worked hard to make this all happen. September 9th, we opened, and it's been seamless. We've opened, and we've done it right, and that's the point. And if other places haven't done it right, don't be penalizing us for the mistakes that have been made in other groups.
Right. Now, can anything be done about this so the kids and staff can get back into the buildings? Are you fighting the governor's decision?
My kids, my parents want to be back here. I must tell you, Christine, the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks really, have been beautiful. Mm-hmm. The kids are happy again to see them interact, to see them in the schoolyard when they have a little recreation. This is a beautiful thing. And I'm telling parents, call the governor's office, call the mayor's office. They put us, the officials of the government have put us into a spot, and our kids should be here. And the parents, the children need to tell politicians, need to call city council, need to call the mayor's office, need to call the governor's office and tell them we want to be back in school. I give a tremendous accolades to the parents at Good Shepherd that organized that rally yesterday.
Mm-hmm. All right, Vicar for Catholic Schools here in the Diocese of Brooklyn, Monsignor David Cassato, thanks for calling in. And as the Monsignor said, if you feel your child's school should remain open, you can contact the governor by calling 518-474-8390. Again, that's 518-474-8390. There's a lot more news headed your way. Could your religious identity affect the way you vote? We'll explore how people of all faiths cast their ballots. Plus, a friend and colleague of conservative Catholic Judge Amy Coney Barrett talks about the Supreme Court nominee's faith and if it will impact her decision-making. Also, an update from White House doctors on President Trump's health.
Now you can help us put your faith in the news. The next time you capture a newsworthy event, send us your pictures or video. It's easy. Go to netny.tv/send us, and you may see your submission on Currents News.
Religion has been a big topic when discussing President Trump's choice for the Supreme Court. Conservative Catholic Judge Amy Coney Barrett has been nominated to fill the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat. The mother of 7 is a graduate of Notre Dame Law School and also teaches there. We're joined now by one of her colleagues, a friend of 22 years, professor of law at Notre Dame, Nicole Garnett. Nicole, I understand you actually attend the same parish as Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Can you talk to us a little bit about her faith and whether you think it will affect her decision-making on the High Court?
Well, first of all, I would say I have no hesitation saying it won't affect her decision-making on the High Court. I'm sure it informs her as a person, as a friend, as a colleague, as a teacher, as a mentor, as a mother. But she has made quite clear and over and over again that her faith is not going to affect her interpretation of the law, that her fidelity is to the rule of law. And actually, now since the last nomination, she's participated as a Court of Appeals judge in 600 cases and written 100 opinions that demonstrate that she is exactly a woman of her word.
All right. What can you tell us about the group People of Praise, which Barrett is reportedly affiliated with? There's a lot of criticism surrounding that group, that men are considered the head of the household. Women used to be called handmaids. Critics say the group is built on the sexist expectation that women defer to men. What would you say to that?
Well, I would say that Amy Coney Barrett has just been nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States after excelling as a judge and a law professor, as a law clerk on the United States Supreme Court, where I met her. She's a mother of 7 who has worked outside the home for her entire professional life. So I don't really think that the narrative fits. As far as People of Praise is an organization that grew out of the Catholic Charismatic movement and is an ecumenical group that supports one another with community and prayer. Many members of the People of Praise are members of my parish, St. Joe Parish in South Bend, Indiana, and they're wonderful people. They're giving, loving, generous. They are always helping out at the grade school, always helping out with the parish council, always lecturing, all the things that typical normal Catholic people do. They're just lovely. And one of my children actually attends a school run by the People of Praise, which is an incredible institution, 2-time National Blue Ribbon Award winner. So I have a very positive impression of the People of Praise based on the people that I know who I believe to be involved.
Okay, Judge Barrett's confirmation hearings are set to begin on Monday. Now, she's been through this before, back in 2017 during her confirmation hearing as an appeals court nominee. Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein spoke about her concerns. Let's take a look at that.
The dogma lives loudly within you.
Now, the upcoming hearings for her Supreme Court nomination will probably be even more intense. How do you think she'll hold up?
Well, she is one of the strongest people that I know. She's a woman of great poise and grace and inner strength. So I think she'll hold up fine, as she did when she was attacked by Senator Feinstein and others for her faith in the last hearing. So I don't think it shouldn't be on the table what your faith is. Many Americans, millions and millions of Americans, their faith is very much a part of who they are, including myself. So I hope it's not on the table. I hope that the senators have a better sense than to drag that out again. But whatever you throw at Amy Barrett, she's ready for you.
All right, Nicole Garnett, thanks for the insight on Amy Coney Barrett.
Thanks so much for having me.
President Trump's doctor says he has had no COVID-19 symptoms for 24 hours and has been fever-free for 4 days. In a memo, Dr. Sean Conley says that the president has not received or needed oxygen since his initial hospitalization. He also says the president has signs of coronavirus antibodies in his blood. Meanwhile, there are now at least 11 COVID cases among White House officials. In just a few hours, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris face off in the one and only vice presidential debate of the 2020 election. This as concerns over whether the vice president may have been exposed to the coronavirus. New safety measures are being put in place, including plexiglass shields. His team says he's tested negative several times. Pence is expected to defend the Trump administration's record, while Harris is likely to attack the president's handling of the pandemic. Every presidential election since 2004 has included at least one Catholic candidate on a major party ticket. This year, it could affect the outcome more than in past because religious voters of all faiths are expected to have an outsized impact on who wins the presidency.
My Catholic faith has helped me through the darkness.
Catholic voters and their religious identity is on the ballot this year, with Joe Biden only the fourth major party Catholic candidate in U.S. history. A win in November would make him the second Catholic to ever hold the nation's highest political office since JFK, something Chris Vogt, the chair of the Theology and Religious Studies Department at St. John's University, thinks could reinvigorate Catholics in this country.
As Catholics, we are called to be attentive to church teaching, but really it is in our conscience where God speaks to us and where we need to come to a decision about the person that we need to support in this election.
Religion can be central to a voter's identity, but studies conducted by the Pew Research Center show that Catholics, like many other religious groups, want a president who lives an ethical and moral life more than a president who shares their own religious beliefs. 62% of them saying it's very important, compared to just 14% for the latter. The faithful also view religious organizations as forces for good in society, but a majority, 62%, believe churches and other religious institutions should stay out of politics versus 37% who do not. And while the Catholic vote is critical, non-Christian faiths will play a role too. Rabbi Brad Hirschfield, head of the National Jewish Center for Learning and Leadership, thinks the Jewish vote will reflect the hard choices all voters have to make come November.
What I think we have at their best in each community are voters who are seeking to live their values as deeply as possible and to appreciate that a single value can be lived in politically diametrically opposed ways.
Those divisions resonate with non-Judeo-Christian faiths too, like Muslims, Buddhists, and Hindus, who make up 2 to 4% of the U.S. population, a tiny slice that could make a big difference. Religious identity could also affect the vice presidential debate, starting with the candidates. Kamala Harris is a Baptist, but her mother was a practicing Hindu. Diverse religious beliefs that could attract voters to the Biden camp. But Vice President Mike Pence has a strong evangelical following, a self-described born-again evangelical Catholic with strong ties to the Catholic cultural tradition and moral teachings of the church.
You know, it's hard to talk about the religious sensibilities of either Vice President Pence or Senator Harris. The fact of the matter is they have an opportunity to show us all that regardless of affiliation with party or views on particular issues, their commitment again to dignity, decency, and democracy transcends their desire to win an office.
The Pence-Harris face-off is the only vice presidential debate this election season, but with the fate of the two remaining presidential debates still hanging in the balance, its impact could be more important than ever. Both camps are fighting hard to win over Americans with no religious identity. Nuns, as they're called, make up 1/5 of the U.S. population and tend to skew younger with less interest in religion and in voting. Police have made an arrest in the desecration of a statue of the Virgin Mary outside of a Brooklyn church. The NYPD arrested the man caught on camera last month vandalizing the statue outside the Shrine Church of Our Lady of Solace in Coney Island. 37-year-old Daniel Venter of Manhattan is charged with criminal mischief. The statue was knocked over and thrown on the sidewalk. The Blessed Mother's face and hands were damaged. The Knights of Columbus gave $10,000 to the church to help pay for a new statue to be built. Still to come on Currents News, a moment of prayer. Across America and around the world, Catholics took part in a virtual rosary on this feast day of Our Lady of the Rosary. And how the nurse who took care of a young special needs boy ended up becoming his mom. Pope Francis is asking Catholics to rediscover the beauty of the Rosary, and today is the perfect day to do that.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
I believe in God, the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth.
Bishops from across the U.S. led a virtual rosary on this, the feast of Our Lady of the Rosary. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says at this time, when there's so much unrest and uncertainty, Catholics should come together and pray for a unified country. And finally tonight, a little boy's prayers were answered when his nurse became his family. 9-year-old Josiah was just adopted by Kelly Dabick. She had been the little boy's nurse since he was born prematurely. Josiah has special needs, a long list of illnesses and disorders. And after his mom died unexpectedly, Kelly became his foster parent. The adoption just became official. And now that Kelly's biological daughters are older, she knew she had room in her house and her heart for little Josiah. Great story. And that is Currents News. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.